There are so many myths about cognitive behavior therapy. One is that it's manualized. Now, the way that we teach it at the Beck Institute is never to use a manual, but rather to use the principles from manuals that have been established through research studies to be effective. In fact, we base treatment not on the manual itself, but on an individualized conceptualization of each client. And, we all know each client is different, has different characteristics.
Well, I think, part of that is basing it off the client. It also goes to this myth of everything being surface level. So, okay, you're taking this manual, you're just dealing with symptoms, you're not dealing with the person, but what we do is, first off, we're going to focus more on the present moment, the here and now. Like, let's get the person really living a better life. But then once we do that and they're nice and stable and they can handle kind of the harder emotional work, that's when we get deep down. So like I had a client where she was engaging in self-harm behavior and she had a really strong unlovable core belief, but I'm not going to address that right away because I want to make sure she's safe. So once we could deal with the self-harm, she could regulate her emotion. We started talking a lot about this sense of unlovability and how it's coming from her mom, like criticizing her a ton and her just thinking, there's something about me that just makes it so no one wants to love me. So we got to that really kind of deep emotional work, but I just wanted to make sure she was nice and safe right here and now before getting there.
And I think that to add to that, with the conceptualization allows us to individualize treatment because without the conceptualization, we're making the assumption that everybody is the same, that there are no cultural differences, gender differences, age differences, socioeconomic differences. And when we take those things into consideration, we can tailor the treatment to the person's history and their circumstances, such that we can then use the most effective things that would be appropriate for that particular individual.
Yes, as far as tailoring the therapy for the clients and also as far as dealing with the emotional output, another aspect, another myth of cognitive therapy is that it's cold and unemotional, that we don't deal with emotions. As Rob indicated, we do deal intensely with emotions. And rather than being cold and impersonal, the emotions are an essential part of cognitive therapy. And as far as tailoring the therapy to the client, the relationship is really, really important. So as opposed to being cold and personal, no, it's emotion laden. We deal with the relationship. Those are essential parts of cognitive therapy. And that is a myth that whose time has come, I think.
I always tell people, why are we treating clients in the first place? The first place is to help them feel better.
Yes.
So of course we focus on emotion. In traditional CBT, we've mostly, or maybe not mostly, but had a strong emphasis on reducing negative emotion. And in recent years, we've been influenced by the recovery movement. And so now we're much more conscious of trying to have patients have positive experiences and experience positive emotion both in session and between sessions. So obviously negative emotion and positive emotions are both very important.
Yes.
I think with CBT, the importance of the therapeutic relationship for some reason was not talked about as much as perhaps it could have or should have been, because
Can I just take exception to that for a moment?
Yes.
In Aaron Beck, my dad's first book, Cognitive Therapy of Depression, he had an entire chapter devoted to the therapeutic relationship.
That was exactly what I was going to say. that in spite of the fact that your dad's original book on cognitive therapy of depression had an entire chapter dedicated to that, cognitive therapists haven't talked about that and have not included that in a lot of the training and supervision. And what is also important is that the cognitive therapy rating scale that was developed in 1980 has items all over it that are important building blocks for a good therapeutic relationship. And so I think that it's important now that we do start talking about this and bring it forward, because it has been a part of CBT from the very beginning, and we just need to make sure that everybody understands that.
Absolutely, because the chapter in the first cognitive therapy depression book was also the role of emotions in cognitive therapy as well as the therapeutic relationship. So it's been with us from the very start.